everything that we did in the beginning in real estate was some version of what we had experience with in car sales, the way that we bought most of our properties. We went to public auctions, sheriff sales. We bought off the MLS.
Mic check. I'm good.
Mic check. Mic check.
You can read about success all day long, but if you don't put in the work, the mindset, execution, and the hustle behind your vision, it just remains a dream.
When everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
We uncover what high-level entrepreneurs, business owners do to rise up from hustling daily.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Join me as I share with you actionable tips to help you grow your business, learn skills, and help you level up in your self-development journey.
Your number one spot for business and personal growth is the Online Hustlers Podcast with your host, Esteban Andrade.
Every day I'm hustling.
What's going on, everyone that is listening to the Online Hustlers Podcast for real estate investors, real estate entrepreneurs, real estate hustlers, people that do wholesaling, real estate investing, people have tech companies within the real estate space, or you're a badass real estate agent. We present you a new episode of the Online Hustlers. And today we have a special guest because, as you know, we want you to gain as many skills as possible that you can it can immediately impact your business right away, that you go on ahead and start using them right after watching this show. You can start implementing them right away, specific tactics, specific tips, or things that are actionable. And our episode today has a guest called, his name is Eric Brewer. And Eric Brewer, just like his last name, has been brewing some good stuff for the last few years. All right. And he's been basically consolidating his knowledge in new ways and new strategies to take wholesaling to another level, ultimately increase your conversion, make the most out of your ad spend, maximize your ad spend, maximize the marketing that you currently have, and make more money with the current efforts that you currently have. And this can be applicable at any level of business that you are in wholesaling, because with this one tactic or methodology, we can really have more people to put under contract, to get more deals, and ultimately it will make you more money. All right. So I'm going to talk here today with Eric Brewer. Eric Brewer, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate you being here today at the episode. Awesome. So Eric, you own Integrity First Home Buying, right? Is that the company that you currently own? Okay. So Integrity First Home Buyers, where are you based off?
We are in central Pennsylvania. So I'm about an hour and a half west of Philadelphia. Most people have a pretty decent understanding of around where Philly is. About an hour north of Baltimore. So I'm kind of right on the Maryland line. I'm only maybe 5 miles from the Maryland line, and about an hour south of Harrisburg, the capital of Pennsylvania. So southern portion of the state, real close to Maryland, and towards the middle of the state. So south central. Although when I say south central PA, sometimes people confuse that with south central LA because it's been made so popular. Yeah, so we're in south central Pennsylvania.
All right. So you're an eastern part of the U.S. and you've been always doing real estate in the East Coast.
Yeah.
How long you been doing this now for?
Started in February of 2006.
2006. And since 2006, how many homes do you think that you have flipped, wholesaled, or renovated, or how many homes do you think you've gone through?
North of 3,000.
North of 3,000. Wow, that's a huge accomplishment. And you feel like your last few years you've done more than what you started, or is there a period of time where?
Yeah, we did 70 deals our first full year. Got up to about 100 and some deals by our second year. We were doing around 200 by our third full year, and we've been doing close to 300 for about the last 7 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So our volume has increased year over year. We've expanded a little bit. Where I'm at in Pennsylvania is a pretty small market. There's only about 350,000 people in our MSA. So we've, in an effort to continue to grow and still stay relatively local, we've expanded to some markets out closer to Philadelphia, down into the northern part of Maryland. But yeah, we've had a very reasonable amount of growth year over year.
So mainly, maybe doing local marketing, is that what I understand, or you've expanded a little bit more within, yeah, the entire state?
Yeah, so the last 5 years, we started doing a lot of television, which has a bigger reach than being hyper focused with things like direct mail and stuff like that. And that's sort of what opened our eyes to growing outside of our home market because I got a lead today, someone that was in Pennsylvania, saw our television ad and called, but actually has a property 2.5 hours away in Maryland. Sounds like it's a really, really good opportunity on a property we'd love to be able to purchase. It's a, duplex on one property with another duplex approved to be built on the back end of the property. The guy's pretty motivated. There's some distress going on. It's paid off. So we're going to be down in Columbia, Maryland, Saturday afternoon, making an offer on this property. So TV and radio have expanded. There's some PPC stuff that comes in outside of our market every once in a while that we didn't turn away. So the last 5 years, as we expanded some of our marketing efforts, it opened up some doors for us to go into different markets.
Okay, that makes sense. But you definitely are a huge advocate into staying localized or mastering your market. Is that something that I understand? You prefer to be the master and the authority of your market, being that wholesale or real estate investing company that has kind of mastered down one place?
So I'm probably more a advocate of in-person boots on the ground acquisitions. So if that means that you're investing outside of your market, obviously, if you are a resident of California and you want to invest in Columbus, Ohio, really difficult for you personally to be in Columbus, Ohio, and live in California. But I'm a really, really, really big, advocate of in-person acquisitions. Obviously, I think anytime that you invest in your home market, you have an advantage. You have resources and experience there locally that gives you a little bit of advantage. But I would say number one is I'm a big, big advocate of in-person acquisitions. Number two on the list would be if you can invest locally, I think it gives you an advantage.
Yeah, that's huge. And you said in the first year you did about 70 something deals, and then you went to 100 and so on. Then you haven't gone lower than 300 every year after that. So what does your background come from? Like, what do you think happened that first year that really got you over 70 deals? Your first year in doing this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think because a lot of times I'll tell people our first year we did 70 something. They're like, what? That's a
Yeah.
ton of deals. And I came from the automotive business.
Mm.
I kind of cut my teeth in business at a Toyota dealership, and we sold 300 cars a month.
Wow.
So when I transitioned into real estate, like we just had this high volume sort of mindset. And everything that we did in the beginning in real estate was some version of what we had experience with in car sales, the way that we bought most of our properties. We went to public auctions, sheriff sales, we bought off the MLS, and then we renovated it and flipped it. So in the beginning, we did almost all of our deals were fix and flips. And then when we listed them, we would advertise like in the newspaper, on Craigslist. And, we would advertise like bad credit, okay, low down payments, low monthly payments. And then we had, the ability to bring them in, get applications with local lenders, pluck maybe one out of every 30 people that could actually get approved. And then we'd go out and sell our own inventory. We didn't list most of our stuff or sell most of our stuff with a real estate agent. We actually sold most of our own inventory by ourselves. So I think a lot of the profit we made in the beginning was actually more just commissions that we saved by not having to pay a real estate agent, because we actually sucked at buying. We weren't very good at renovating. The only thing that we were good at is we knew how to take a cold prospect that was thinking about buying a house, very similar to the car buying experience. We took them through the approval process. They'd have maybe one option to choose from. It was the only house we had. I'm not a licensed agent. So if they wanted to buy a house for me, they'd have to buy one of the maybe 5 or 6 that we had for sale. And that was the way that we ran our business for the first couple of years. So I think the car business background that was high volume, where we grew up in the auto business, sort of established some of our habits and behaviors when we first got into real estate.
I love that. And I like that you were able to plug and play one industry standards in the marketing and sales, but now you're doing it into the real estate side. Now you've done that effectively ever since 2006, right? Like you've been in the game for a long period of time now. And a lot of listeners here, they start in the game by listening to free YouTube videos or cheap wholesaling courses on how to start in doing wholesaling. Just basically get it for low, sell the contract for high, and do that over and over until you have a cash flowing business. Um, but a lot of people, they get stuck with first marketing, not being able to generate as many opportunities as possible, to sales, not being able to close as many opportunities as possible, right? But that incorporates what they can actually solve for the seller, what they can actually do for the marketing that they're doing. And a lot of our clients, even a lot of people that we get to prospect and talk all over the phone every day, they just have the same issues. Oh, I get so many people asking me for retail. And the truth is that everyone wants the best deal at the end of the day, right? Like everyone wants the best for what they can get out of it. Even if you are going through some sort of bad moment, they always tell you, "What can you do for me that's the best for my best? For just for my best, um, just for me, what would fit for me the best, right?" And seeing that way, you can create a new way of doing the same type of offer that you have, which is buying their house on a convenient way, on a fast way, just in a different type of fulfillment, right? And I think that's where what you're talking about, that you understood a way of not using a realtor, and not having to rely on that in order to do more deals, deal after deal. So I'd love to kind of know more about that. Like, when do you start creating this? Who you learn it from? The method of the new wholesale, which now it's called Novations.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you get that from? Like, did it just spark in your mind, or you had good mentors, or?
No, so I started doing those 15 years ago. I know novations have become a super popular topic like the last year to maybe 18 months. I'm pretty sure that's because I started teaching it about 2 years ago. So the context is, short answer is I learned it from my attorney. He's been with me since goodness, over 15 years. So from the first real estate we did, first transaction, setting up of our LLC was done by Brad Leber, my attorney, right here in York, PA. And when we were flipping homes retail in 2006 and 2007, for those of you that weren't in the business back then, there was a very unique set of circumstances. In 2006 and 7, virtually nobody used FHA financing. There was all kinds of subprime mortgages out there, non-conforming loan products. You could get an 80-20 loan with 6% seller's help, which means zero money down with as little as a 550 credit score. Quite frankly, those sort of irresponsible loan products is what contributed to the financial crisis that unfolded in 2007 and 2008. So as soon as the market started to change, nearly every person that was making offers on my flips was using FHA loans. It was like one of the only ways that a normal low down payment borrower without a 800 credit score could get approved, because as the market started to crash, mortgage companies were closing left and right. I mean, like they were closing every single day. So I'm getting these offers on my flips with these FHA approved buyers. And that is a problem for a flipped property because FHA has a 90-day seasoning requirement, which simply means if I buy the house today, I model the entire house from head to toe in 4 weeks. And I have an FHA buyer that comes to me in 30 days and says, hey, I'll pay you full price for it. FHA will not even allow them to write a contract on that property until the 91st day. So that was kind of what was happening. We were getting our flips done in 3 to 4 weeks. We had buyers lined up, ready to make an offer after 30 couple days. And because they were using FHA financing, it meant that I may have to wait another 2 months to write the contract and then another 45 to 60 days to go to settlement. So I went from 2-month cash conversion cycle to what looked like a 6-month cash conversion cycle. So I'm freaking out, right? By this time, we're doing over 100 deals a year. I got 15, 20 renovation projects in my inventory at any time. And I started looking for a solution to this FHA seasoning issue. And that's when I was first introduced to the idea of novations. I was just berating my attorney. You got to figure this out. This is not right. What are we going to do? This is really messing up my cash flow. And he said, well, there's this, because basically he said, the FHA seasoning requirement starts or is triggered by you taking deed. If you could figure out a way to not transfer the deed on these deals, you wouldn't trigger FHA seasoning. And I couldn't quite figure that out because at that point, all the homes I were buying were either bank owned, foreclosures, short sales, and they had to be renovated. And I didn't like the thought of not recording the deed, funding it, renovating it, and not having physical ownership by way of a deed. So at that point, I didn't really start doing novations. The second thing that happened is the government implemented an FHA flip waiver. Congress actually passed a spending bill that incentivized investors to buy up all this bad bank-owned inventory. And they said, hey, that seasoning requirement, we're going to waive that as long as you get 2 appraisals on your deals. That lasted until 2010, and then that waiver was expired. So then in 2010, it went back to needing to, hold the property for 91 days. I actually did my first few novations from public auctions because as 2008 started to unwind and my attorney explained to me novations, and the way he explained it was outside of real estate. He said, listen, forever and ever and ever, novations have existed in government contracts, general contracting agreements where someone says, hey, there's an agreement inside of our contract that says we're going to build a bridge for you. And that includes, supplying all this rebar and steel. We're going to novate the rebar contract to another rebar and steel specialist, right? So they would replace, that's all novate means is replace their agreement with another agreement. And he said, you can use that same application in real estate if you can figure out how to get the seller on board and all that good stuff. So bottom line is I started going to public auctions. The public auction that say the high bidder would be $100,000. The auctioneer would say, hey, everybody go home. We're not selling this house today. The reserve on this property, the seller's not willing to take less than 125. So I walked up to him and I was like, hey, I have an idea of how I may be able to get you more money for the property. If I gave you $125,000 and you let me have reasonable access and you guys were okay with like a 45 to 90 business day settlement, I think I could make the deal work. And sure enough, they're like, yeah, that's fine. Give us a deposit, close in 90 business days. You guys can have a key in a lockbox. And I would go in, take the property to the MLS, sell it for $150,000 and put 20 grand in my pocket. And I was like, holy smokes, I can't believe that just worked. There were 35 other people at the auction. None of them must know about how to do this, or certainly they would have made an offer to the seller. And I did probably my first 30 to 50 novations at public auctions, where there was an attorney, an auctioneer, and the seller all standing at the kitchen at the same time. And that's how I started doing novations. As the market started to change, we started doing more direct to seller. I started getting active in wholesale. And I found that like literally half of the leads that I get from direct mail, cold calling, TV, radio don't have any interest in a low ball wholesale offer. And the more that I started to offer, this, what we call the equity protection program, because novations doesn't mean anything to a homeowner. They don't know what that means. It doesn't carry any value. So we've built a whole sort of library of language around the new way of doing wholesale that is very has very high conversions. So that's how I kind of got my start with novations. It was introduced to me by my attorney. I think I'm sort of the first person that pioneered this wholesale application of novations. For a long time, people have been teaching this renovation, partnering with the seller version of novations, which I'm sure that works, and there may be a time and place for that, but I do not love doing renovations. Construction's a very, very difficult part of this business, and I dang sure do not want to partner with a homeowner. I just don't like the mechanics of that. I don't like the emotional aspect that they make decisions. I do not want to partner with a seller. So the old way of doing wholesale, the old way of doing novations to me is way outdated and long past due for some innovation. And what we're doing right now with our version of novations is absolutely killing it.
So you would say that you're like Novations 3.0 or something like that? Like which operating system? Would it be Brewer
It
OS?
depends when the first one was. Yeah, maybe 2.0 or 3.0. I'm not sure which one, but I don't, I think I had been doing it for, really 15 years. And I went to a real estate mastermind about 4 to 5 years ago. And that particular mastermind, you have to get up and present on something. Like there's 200 people staring at me. You're like, okay, what are you going to teach us today? And I was like, I guess I'll teach them this thing that I've been doing. And people were like blown away. There was people flocking to me in the lobby. They started asking me all these questions. I spent several weeks after that on Zoom calls with people's title attorneys, real estate brokers. And there was probably 10 or 15 people from that mastermind that started doing these deals right away. One of them texted me every single month. It's a friend of mine. Met at the mastermind named Jim Zaspel in Philadelphia. And he's like, hey, I did $100,000 in novations last month. Can't thank you enough. Every month he sends me like an update of how much money he made in novations and says,
He doesn't send you a gift? Come on, man. At least send him some
a message from Jim is a gift. If you know Jim, he's a heck of a guy. So just hearing from him is a enough payment for me. But and we do other deals together. He's not far from me. We're actually working on a self-storage deal a few days ago that he's got a ton of experience in. I have absolutely zero. He's a great guy. So, that sort of opened my eyes that I was like, man, nobody knows what the heck this is. And so we started teaching it about 2 years ago. I met up with Steve Trang on his podcast and we talked about this and he was like, dude, you got to start sharing this with people. This is absolutely gold.
Yeah.
And he encouraged me to do it. We set up a website like a week later and we've been selling it ever since.
That's good. Well, I think that you've been helping a lot of people really overcome one of the most difficult things that exist out there, especially with all the economic downturns and also the shifts that have happened in the last few years, which is helping them increase their the amount of deal flow by increasing the chances of them to convert a lead or a homeowner into an actual contract, right? Into an actual deal.
Like, here's the toughest part right now about and again, I've seen since 2006, I've seen, the market crash. I've seen it take off like a skyrocket after COVID. And then I've seen these other little peaks and valleys. The general, market conditions right now, and I think why novations is so popular is because sellers here, it's the hottest real estate market in the last 200 years. So they think their house is worth $1 gazillion. Buyers, investors, landlords, flippers here, the market's crashing, rates are up, run for the hills. So buyers want to pay, right? Investor buyers, cash buyers want to pay rock bottom prices. And sellers are under the impression that it's the greatest real estate market since the beginning of time. So there's this massive gap, right, between what sellers think their house is worth and what buyers are willing to pay, at least cash buyers. Hedge funds stepped away from the market. A lot of investors really drastically lowered what they're willing to pay for a property. Landlords that are leveraging and doing BRRRR are paying 6.5%, 7% interest. Their cash flow has drastically been, impacted. The only way for them to get some of that back is to pay you as the wholesaler less money. So the toughest thing to do right now is to get a seller to take half of what their house is worth. The second hardest thing to do is to get a cash buyer to pay what it's worth. So the Novations, actually what it is it allows you to give sellers closer to retail value for their property because we can take it directly to the open market. And now we're selling to retail buyers at retail prices. So now think about that. If you're an active wholesaler, a fix and flipper, marketer that's trying to buy properties at a discount, how much could you pay a seller, right? How much could you offer a seller, go under contract with a seller if you knew that you didn't have to pay for it, you didn't have to close on it, and you could get it to the MLS and sell it to a retail buyer at retail prices? It completely changes the whole mathematics of the game because wholesale is generally trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's a distressed seller with a house that's all effed up, and they're willing to sell it for 50 cents on the dollar, right? And then if you're lucky enough to get that needle in a haystack, you have to go out and then try and sell it to a different needle in a different haystack. That's a cash buyer that's crazy enough to think they can make money if they bought it from you and fixed it up. So the old way of doing deals is finding a needle in a haystack, selling it to a needle in a haystack. And oh, by the way, sellers think their house is worth $1 million. Buyers think it's worth 100,000. Good luck getting each of them to pay you what you need to buy and sell it for. And then the other thing is everybody and their brother in the last 5 years has become a part-time or full-time wholesaler. So there's 5 people in every town that are willing to sell their house for a discount. And there's 50 people texting, cold calling them, mailing them, and blasting them on social media. That has made the general business of wholesaling extremely challenging for most people, particularly people that want to get started.
Right. If you were to run, if you were to get the word out there to sellers, how would you approach the offer? How would you gain their attention so that you can ultimately talk about them this new way of buying their house or selling their house?
Yeah. So generally, when I'm teaching this to people or I'm just helping them get started, continue to do the same marketing that you're doing now, right? Because there does need to be some motivation from a seller to consider doing a novation deal, right? We just don't need distress. I think that's the biggest difference, is that wholesale requires distress. Oftentimes that distress from the seller is triggered by some type of condition issue with the property or some type of life circumstances that they're going through, like a divorce, probate, relocation of a job, right? The roof's collapsing, the water's filled with, or the basement's filled with water, the furnace stopped working, the tenants are under eviction. There's something going on with the property condition-wise that makes them distressed. The cool thing about novations is you only need motivation, right? Lots of people are motivated. Very few people are actually very distressed. So the messaging initially doesn't need to change. You're already getting these leads. As a matter of fact, out of 10 leads that I see, whether it's through cold call, whether it's texting, whether it's email, radio, we do TV, I do billboards, I do all the stuff. 1 out of every 10 is a really good wholesale opportunity. 5 or 6 out of 10 are very long-term nurture prospects. They're unrealistic on price. They're not looking to sell for 2 years. Maybe there's multiple decision makers and they can't agree on what to do. There's no way to monetize 5 to 6 out of every 10. The difference is 3 or 4 people out of every 10 leads you're already getting from mail, TV, radio, cold calling, and texting are motivated and they have a pretty decent house and they'd like to sell it. So there's actually 3 to 4 times more novation leads in your pipeline than there are wholesale leads. But generally, we're turning these leads away because people are calling in and going, yeah, I'd like to sell, I don't know, next 3 to 6 months. What would you like to get for it? And they're normally within, let's say, 80 to 100% of retail. And most wholesalers are going, sorry, I can't help you. Sorry, I can't help you. Doesn't sound like you're motivated. Yeah, they're motivated. They're not distressed. right? So most people are already throwing away 3 to 4 novation opportunities out of every 10 leads they're getting because they don't know how to do it. So you don't have to change any of your messaging. These are already inside of your pipeline, inside of your CRM, already on your data list that you're buying right now.
Okay. So there's from what I see also there is an opportunity that if you were to reactivate the interest of a homeowner to speak with you, work with you on potentially sell their house, and you have now this strategy, now this fulfillment for them that you could re-explore again the option of essentially helping them sell the house like
Right.
with their current pipeline, with the current list that they have.
Yeah.
There,
So we found
Mhm.
I've had probably the best success story I've ever had is a gentleman named Matt Simmons. He's a big time investor, does 200 plus deals out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I taught this to him. He went back. The guy's a massive action taker. And like 3 days after I taught it to him, he went back in his CRM, dropped like 5,000 RVMs, and he recorded a very simple message. Hey, this is Matt Simmons. Just calling to let you know we have an exciting new home buying program that we're rolling out. I believe I can pay you $30,000 to $40,000 more than what we may have offered you last time we spoke. If you have any interest in hearing more about this program, pick up the phone and give us a call or shoot me a text message. We'll be happy to walk you through it. He got nine novation contracts in the first 2 weeks. He closed on, I believe, 7 of them. He made $200,000 on one ringless voicemail after he learned how to do novations the way that I taught him. And now it's 25% of his business each and every month. So they're already, again, the people that this is a great fit for that you've already talked to have said things like, Eric, that sounds great. I would really love to do a deal like this, but I'm just not going to give it away. Or, Eric, this sounds really good. I love the fact that you guys make it super simple and, we don't have to worry about appraisals and stuff like that, but I'm just not in a hurry. If it takes a little bit longer for me to get that amount of money that I need, then I guess we'll just have to go a different route. Right. So every time you hear that, it's like burned into my brain because half the people you talk to are saying stuff like that, right? You've taken them through a sales process. You've tried to make a really good offer. You've tried to convince them that commissions and repairs and all this stuff is worth it. And they're just not distressed, right? Like if you think about it, a normal person isn't selling their house for 50 cents on the dollar, right? There's got to be something going on there. And the reality is whether we get cold call, text, mail, TV leads, radio leads, 40 to 50% of our leads do not fit a wholesale deal, a wholesale offer, but they do fit a novation opportunity. So
one of their biggest goals as an agency, because we're a marketing agency, so now we help them mostly with online marketing, but we also help them with what lead management is, lead follow up, and
yeah,
we utilize powerful automation CRM systems um, to reactivate people, right? To get them back in on the pipeline. They
yeah,
were dead at some point, and that's kind of like a bonus that we give. But as we get Facebook leads, as we get Google Ads leads, as we get YouTube leads, um, I want to say the conversion or the amount of people that would buy or would buy on the idea of doing a cash deal is 5% or closer to that of everything that we get.
yeah,
Sometimes it could be more if you have a great sales process, 5 to 8%. But then the people that have applied just a way of doing a creative arrangement with the seller, whether that's creative financing or whether that's like another way of doing it, they increase their conversion to 11 to 15%, right? Like they're able to get more deals, but I haven't been able to really put this message across all our clients or make them understand or even learn how they can do it in a very simple method, right? In a very simple way. Sometimes people feel like, oh, it's too much to learn, or they don't have what it takes to learn, or they don't have the tool, whatever. How do you deal with those people that are so used to wholesaling
yeah.
and then you want to teach them?
So first thing we did was I recorded a bunch of videos. I took all of my documents, put them into a library, and people that signed up, I would send them the documents, send them the videos. And then I realized that they had 1,000 questions. So the one thing we do with our coaching program now is we do 12 weeks worth of coaching calls. So a lot of clients that sign up for us may have a team. They have an acquisitions team. They have a dispositions team. They have a real estate agent team, right? They have lead management teams. So what we found is by them getting into those coaching calls over the course of 12 weeks, we're actually able to teach it to them in bite-sized chunks. I think what's really intimidating is two things. It sounds much different than what we're doing now as wholesalers, but it's literally not. You're starting, because every appointment we always suggest you start with the wholesale cash offer, right? And then when that's $100,000 and they say no, 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 and we go, well, we do have this other program that we offer that sometimes allows us to pay $30,000 or $40,000 more. I feel like if we were able to get you qualified for that program and you thought it was a good idea, I could probably get you up to that number that you mentioned you were looking for, right? So we made them an offer. They said no. We said, hey, there's this other option that can get you up to where you want to be. On the front end, that's it. You need to learn 2 or 3 word tracks to be able to get people to go from a no. We say, we'll teach you how to get them from a no to a novation, right? So you'll turn a dead deal into a signed contract. And then the rest of it really is more of like a TC, compliance, legal, all of that stuff, which, that's why we did the coaching calls to help people through the TC process. How do I explain it to my title company? So I think the tough part is they think they have to learn it on their own. The way that we do it, we do 2-hour onboarding calls where we teach the living snot out of it on the front end. We do 12 weeks worth of coaching calls to help them learn it in bite-sized chunks. Then we have all the videos for people to go back there and learn it and watch it over and over and over again. And we open that up to not only the person that runs the company, but their entire organization. So your salespeople, acquisitions agents, dispo, everybody's allowed to consume that content. And that is what we found is help people. Listen, you don't have to learn this on your own, because that's the most intimidating thing, right? Like when we wanted to get better at doing sub 2, I didn't want my people to have to learn it on my own. I didn't want to have to teach them. So I paid like $8,000 and signed them up for Pace Morby's course, right? I do that all the time. I wanted it to happen quick. I wanted it to be done right. And I didn't want to have to be the person to do it. So, and that's sort of what we model it after is how can I get people in a situation where they don't have to do it themselves? We teach it instead of just sharing information. We're actually teaching the information. And we found that people, we have oftentimes people that come into the course and within 2 or 3 days, they're locking up their first deal. Within 45 or 60 days, they're getting their first $26,000, $27,000 check. And I see people all the time that post in our community that doing $100,000 novations, where they might have done a $25,000 wholesale deal was their biggest deal before that. So we're really big on teaching it, not just saying, hey, here's the information. Good luck learning it.
So once they have learned at least the concept of it, and maybe they have the paperwork, what will be the 1 to 3 things that they can do in terms of marketing that they can do almost immediately so that they can get a fast win?
So if they've already, again, the quickest win is these leads are already in your pipeline, right? I would go back literally. There's no reason to recreate the wheel. Matt Simmons set the precedent. He dropped an RVM. You can do mass text. You can do, inside of your CRM, there's multiple ways to get a broadcast message out there to people that have already opted into communication with you. And literally just tell them we have an exciting new program. We can pay you more money for your property. If you're still thinking about selling and you'd like to get more money, give me a call. That's number 1. Number 2 is that we realize that our best novation deals come from TV, radio, and PPC. Why? Because it's not a super targeted marketing strategy, right? Like when we do texting and calling, we're typically focused on pre-foreclosure, tax delinquents, code violations, probate, stuff like that. Those are normally where you'll find the high distress type of consumer that may have a property that needs a whole bunch of work. When I get a TV lead, they're generally, our messaging on TV and direct mail and that stuff is more about convenience, speed, a professional experience, the certainty of knowing of selling to a cash buyer and not having to wait maybe a couple weeks or a couple months, what it would be like to sell with a real estate agent. And those people are less concerned about as is. Like they're not overly concerned about as is because their property is in decent shape. They're not super concerned about closing in 7 days because they're saying things like, I'm not in a hurry. So it's more of a softer message, right? Where it's not like in your face, I'll buy your house in 48 hours. These people respond better to a softer, more branded message. And that's what we use historically on TV and radio.
Okay. That's pretty good, man. That's something that we can incorporate in the during our onboarding process. For example, as an agency, a lot of people are looking for PPC or Facebook ads or both combined. And if they have the opportunity of, they already had a history doing cold call, SMS, then part of our onboarding would be like, okay, look, we'll help you run a reactivation campaign. We'll drop a voicemail similar to what his name, Tim, right? His name was Tim, something like that. The guy that did the voicemail drop, the ringless voicemail.
Matt Simmons.
Matt Simmons, there you go. Do a voicemail similar to what Matt did, and then see how many opportunities we can capitalize. Maybe here's a resource here from Eric Brewer, and see how many people would be interested in potentially exploring the option of the new home buying program, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that we can apply within our agency because we get so many people that still don't know this opportunity that you can do with the current marketing that they have, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, there's a lot of opportunity with TV ads, with radio ads, and PPC ads. I don't know if you ever tried Facebook advertising or something like that, and where do you see that?
So I generally see that stuff has a low barrier of entry, so it's easy for people to opt in, and we see more retail leads than anything in those lead sources. They're nicer properties, more expensive. That's the other thing. When you start doing innovations, for the longest time, when I saw people that were wholesale focused or fix and flip focused, particularly today, right? Like if you talk to, very prominent, active fix and flippers, they'll probably tell you their focus right now is on affordable housing. How do we define affordable housing? It's at or below the median sale price for your market. Well, what happens when you get a PPC lead or a Facebook lead and your median sale price is 300 and their house is worth 600? Most people throw it away. My investors won't want to buy that stuff. And, I'd have to buy it so cheap that, instead of trying to buy it 70% of ARV minus reno, they're trying to buy it 50% of ARV. And it just doesn't work, right? Or if I was to buy it myself and do a flip, I'd want to be so conservative because it's double my median sale price. That's a really quick way to go out of business. But when you novate it, a $500,000-$600,000 house, and you typically on a novation can pay up to 85% of current condition value, we'll do the math. On a $600,000 property, if you buy it at 85% of that, you put it under contract of 85%, that's $90,000 worth of spread. Remember, novation, I'm not renovating it. Biggest misconception. A lot of people go, yeah, I've heard about novations. That's where you partner up with the seller and rehab it. No, that's the old way of doing it. Stop doing that. If you get a property under contract at 85% of current condition retail value, that's the most important value when you're doing innovation. Current condition retail value. If I took the property the way it sits today, I listed it in the MLS, what would an owner occupant pay for it? Think about that. We're normally thinking, what would an investor pay for it? What would a cash investor pay for it? Well, what do cash investors typically pay for houses? We don't buy low, sell high. We buy low and sell low. That's what wholesale is. Novations is buying medium, selling high, right? So too many people, when they're thinking of wholesale, they think discount, 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 discount. I would challenge you, if you're listening to this, to think more about margin, not discount, right? If I can make $90,000 spread paying someone 85% of what their house is worth, That's $90,000 in margin, and I really didn't get much of a discount.
Yeah.
Right? Think more margin, less discount. Get out of the wholesale. Now, let me tell you, I still do 150 wholesale deals a year. Love it. It's the quickest, easiest transactions ever. We can do wholesale deals. I can put them under contract up until about the 21st of the month, get it to the title company, sell it, and close typically within 7 to 10 days. Absolutely love that model. But I can't do enough wholesale deals to make the kind of money I want to make. I can't do enough wholesale deals to employ the amount of people I employ. We have 40 employees. Half of my volume for the last 3 to 4 years has been novations because that's where the opportunity was. Again, I told you, if you look at 10 leads, there's 3 to 4 novation opportunities in there. There's typically only one really good wholesale opportunity. And that's supported by what you're saying, right? 5 to 7% conversions. You'll see those conversions nearly double by just being able to understand and pitch novations.
I love that. Obviously, I don't want to take too much of your time. We're already being here almost 45 minutes, but you came up with this solution because of your attorney and working with your attorney. Maybe not because of him, but you were looking to solve a problem that you had, right? You were looking to find a way, just find a way of like, how can we work this out? And is there an option that we can do that?
Yes.
So I don't think people are. I don't think I'm better than people. I just think that I may know something that they don't. I may believe something that I believe that they don't believe right now, and I'm doing something I don't, and I'm doing something that they're not doing, right? So I think that's something that you at the time when you implemented that strategy or that you discovered that strategy was, or what was it? What was the thing that you feel made you that special someone that found that way, and why didn't other people have been able to actually like figure that out?
I think so. I think it's a really good question. I think the first part is, why was I the first to sort of put this together? I think I was in just the right place at the right time. I happened to be in a market where, it was very affordable housing, and in every market across the country prior to the real estate crash of 2007 and 8, no one was using FHA. FHA was so prominent in my market because of the demographic of the cost of our real estate. Back in 2007 and 2008, our average purchase price in Pennsylvania was probably right around $100,000. So if you think about, like, that's a very popular FHA price point, right? We had a lot of folks with mid to low credit scores, mid to low down payments, and FHA was the best fit. So I think because I was a relatively high volume investor that was only doing fix and flip, that was in a market where FHA became so prominent so quick, the circumstances were so extreme that I had to find a solution to this FHA seasoning issue. That sent me down this rabbit hole of trying to seek a solution, and found novations was a good fit for me. Right. And then as time went on and I did more direct to seller, I did less fix and flips. It went from being a very small part of what I did to the most important thing that we do, right? It's my biggest deals, almost the largest volume of my deals from one category come from there. 50% of my business comes from novation. The other 50% is split across 3 different categories, right? So from one dispo strategy, it's the most important part of my business. So I think I was in the right place at the right time. I was blessed to have a real estate attorney that helped me figure it out, right? Like, I remember it was like, under what circumstances could I make this deal make sense? And that's where it was. Well, if I didn't have to buy it, I didn't have to renovate it, right? I could take it to the open market and sell it with a real estate agent. I could pay the seller close to retail as long as the buyer paid me full retail. And that's where I've landed on that. Hey, let's be more margin focused, less discount focused.
Right. No, I love that. And like, that the quote says, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. You're basically, we're having a few hard times, and you create a strong way of doing your business that now it's giving you good times right now. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that you could potentially go inside our agency and do a masterclass about this. I will be sending this podcast episode to everyone in the agency and also all our ex clients and current users, so that we ultimately understand or find a way to do this. I mean that we can master it as well, right? And I feel like there's still opportunity in there. Eric, if people were to find you somewhere on social media or somehow, like, how can people find you?
Best place to find me is on Instagram. It's Eric_Brewer_invest.
Let me write it down here. Eric_Brewer_invest.
Invest.
Yeah. And you're saying that your first ever coaching was from this mastermind that you showed them what you did, how you did it. I'm assuming that's what is it? Collective Genius?
Yeah. Yeah. I did it, Collective Genius, and I had like a slide deck with the documents. And I showed like 3 or 4 case studies where, our max allowable wholesale offer was 100. We paid the seller 125 and sold it for 150 and made $20,000 on an otherwise dead deal. And, I was a very popular guy at lunch that day. Bunch of people sitting around me at lunch asking me questions. And then I was like, man, I guess, that was the first time I really left my hometown from a real estate perspective. I wasn't real active in masterminds. I didn't see the power of networking. I thought really that I knew all I needed to know about how to do deals. And after going to my first mastermind, I realized there was people doing way more business than me, way more profitable. They were great at the things I sucked at, and I had just so happens one little piece of value that I was able to deliver to them. And now I spend, goodness, probably 15 weeks a year traveling to different masterminds. You and I were just one in Tampa a week ago. So now it's an important part of what I do is getting out and soaking up this, because I've been able to teach people innovations, and it's made millions of dollars. I used to only share it in these very small little mastermind groups, but I've learned 10 times more than that from these same groups, right? Like everything I know about sales, I've learned from guys like Steve Trang and John Martinez. Everything I've learned from marketing, I've learned from guys like Phil Green in San Diego. Everything I know about operations, Gary Harper taught me when he helped me implement EOS 5 years ago in my business. So, that's one of the things that's been really cool is that I've had a chance to help people with novations, but I've gotten 10 times more of that back in return as a result of being in these mastermind groups.
I love that. If we had a masterclass about this in our private group, what would you feel that you could give away for free, if there is anything that you can give away for free, or even to the listeners here?
A couple things. One, the documents. People ask me all the time, like, what's your novation contract look like? It's probably identical to your wholesale contract. You could add one thing. Just put in your purchase and sale agreement, buyer reserves the right to novate property. If you put that language in there, you now have the right to novate. It's that simple. The hard part is, how do I disclose it to the seller? Because you can slide it in your contract, glaze over it when you're having them sign, but then when you take the property to the MLS, they're going to freak out, not know what's going on. If you don't know the proper way to structure your listing agreements. I had a person that called me after meeting me at the mastermind last week at the family, and they're like, man, I got like 3 or 4 novations and they're all messy. And I was like, no problem. Let's get on a call when I get back. And they completely structured the listing agreements the wrong way. They completely structured the retail contract the way. I mean, they were literally like this close to committing fraud because they missed one very important document. So I was able to help them out with that. So, but literally just put that language in your contract. And then the next step would be, how do I use the right language to disclose to a seller what my intentions are so I don't have my deal blow up, at the 11th hour. Then the next step is, what's the compliance and legal aspect look like of getting it listed in your MLS? Because once you take these deals to the MLS and you start ratifying agreements with FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac borrowers, you're entering into a very, very, very compliance heavy world. It's not like the Wild West of wholesaling where you can just kind of write agreements on the back of a bar napkin in ketchup and then go to settlement and get a $15,000 check. Once you enter into novations, there's compliance because you're using government-backed financing, government loans. You got brokerages, you got lenders involved. So it's really important to understand that the 2 or 3 pieces of paperwork need to be done correctly so that you disclose properly.
Okay. How could people potentially get to that?
If you go to brewermethod.com, I got 2 or 3 free things right on the website there. I have a novation calculator I give away there that can show you how to structure a novation deal. We have some KPI dashboards and stuff on there that we help people with that we give away. So brewermethod.com is the best way to see a couple of the free products and stuff that we have on there.
Okay. That's awesome. All right. No, can't wait to schedule something here for you for a masterclass. Thank you for being here in this episode, Eric. I think that you taught us a lot of things, and so as gave us the good vision of the opportunity that is here. What's going to be 2023 for you? You're in business too.
So for our business, one of the things we're realizing is the market tightened up. There's some opportunity to go into really good markets where operators have bowed out. So we're in a expansion mode right now. We plan to go into one new market per year. Started at 1 per quarter, felt that was a little risky, so we backed it down to 1 a year. So we're currently wrapped up. Last year, we came into like the Philadelphia suburb market. This year, I believe by the end of this year, we'll be going into Tampa, Florida. Again, we're seeking margin. The more expensive the property there, as long as there's still a mix of affordable housing and high end, that for us is a really big deal. Tampa is a great example. There's some $250,000 houses in Tampa. There's some $2.5 million houses in Tampa. So for us, that's a hot spot for us to go in. And there's still a lot of hedge fund and investor activity there too. It's got a great mix of single family homes, Airbnb opportunities, waterfront properties. So that's what's next for us. We're going to do some expansion. I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome. All right. Sounds great. So I think at some point I'm going to be loving to have you in person and go deeper into this in another podcast episode, create great content out of this. But for now, man, it was pretty great having you today. I appreciate you a lot. And I think that this was an awesome episode. So we're going to end this here now. And thank you for everyone watching. Again, it only takes about 60 seconds to give us a review. If you liked it, got any value, go to the Online Hustlers podcast, Real Estate Online Hustlers podcast in Spotify or in Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Also, you're going to see this episode in YouTube. So subscribe to that channel. And thank you so much for being a listener. We're going to be bringing up really hidden gems in the real estate space and diamond players in the real estate space as well for you to listen to. All right. So thank you everyone for listening to this episode.